Today on Dr. Phil. Dramatic crime scene photos, damning interrogation tapes, and twisted lies. She's been silent, but now she's ready to expose her daughter's lies.
There is no way it's him.
I wanted, with words, for them to throw her up against the wall and say, "You're done."
That was a big turning point for me. There's something wrong in this case.
You guys are going to find this so interesting, I promise you. Let's do it.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
This is a safe place to talk about hard things.
Stand by. We'll count you down.
Today is going to be a changing day in your life.
5, 4.
Get ready to take care of you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Today, dramatic crime scene photos, damning interrogation tapes, and twisted lies. We're going to take you behind the scenes of what started as a police investigation into a missing, beloved mother, but ended up being a kidnapping hoax. On November 2nd, 2016, Supermom Sherri Papini disappeared from her home in Redding, California. She vanished seemingly into thin air. Her iPhone and headphones, tangled with a strand of her long blonde hair, were the only clues left behind. All signs pointed to an abduction. She was young, pretty, petite, and reportedly jogging all alone on a deserted rural road. Then what seemed to be a miraculous turn, just 3 weeks after she went missing, Sherri Papini reappeared. She was emaciated, battered, burned, and bruised. A heavy chain hung around her waist. She was taken against her will, or was she? Was this the real-life Gone Girl? Sherri's story captivated the nation. But that's all it was, just a story.
The report of a missing wife and mother of two on November 2nd, 2016, who disappeared while out on a jog, shocked the tight-knit community of Redding, California.
I found her phone and it's got like hair ripped out of it, like in the headphones. So I'm like totally freaking out.
The nation was watching and locals were on edge.
We used to walk, me and my husband. And I said, I'm not going to go walk by myself no more.
A California mom missing for more than 3 weeks has been found alive after an apparent abduction.
She was bound with restraints, but was able to summon help from a passing motorist who then notified law enforcement.
34-year-old Sherri Papini was taken to a hospital and reunited with her husband after her alleged captors let her go about 100 miles from her home.
CHP is advising she is heavily battered.
She was found bruised and tied up with a chain along Interstate 5. Papini was emaciated, weighing just 87 pounds, and had a brand burned into her shoulder.
We are looking for a dark-colored SUV with 2 Hispanic females.
After years of sticking to her story that she was abducted by 2 women, Sherri Papini is reportedly ready now to come clean and admit that she faked it all. Prosecutors say instead of being abducted, she was actually hiding out with an ex-boyfriend in Costa Mesa.
Accompanied by her husband, sobbing at times when confronted by police over the false claims that she was kidnapped in 2016 by 2 Hispanic women, whom she says beat her, when in fact she, with the help of her ex-boyfriend James Reyes, inflicted the injuries on herself.
You guys are going to find this so interesting, I promise you. For 5 years, investigators were unraveling Sherri's twisted web of deceit and manipulation. She is finally behind bars, and today we're going to show you the shocking police evidence photos and interrogation tapes that revealed Sherri's lies. Now, I'm joined by Captain John Pat Kropholler. He is retired from Shasta County Sheriff's Office. He was one of the first on the scene when Sherri was found and went on to lead the investigation relentlessly. Now, also joining the conversation is criminal defense attorney Mark Eiglar. It's good to see you again, Mark. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Now, Captain, where were you when she first disappeared?
That's one of those days you don't forget really easily. So
Right.
I was a lieutenant in charge of patrol at the time, and I was actually just pulling into my driveway when my patrol sergeant called me. He was on the scene of this call, and very, very competent investigator. We were detectives together at one time, and he said, "Hey, I need you to come out to this scene because what I'm seeing here is not ending up."
So from the very beginning, did you smell a rat here?
Yeah, there were certain things, especially that night, that some nuances and things that just didn't seem right. And quite frankly, her husband, oftentimes or not, the husband's involved in these disappearances, and his actions and things he did that day kind of were leading us towards him.
Well, let's start unraveling this. First, take a listen to the 911 call Keith made when he discovered Sherri was gone.
911, what is your emergency? CHP transfer. Keith is on the line. Hello, can I help you?
Hello? Yeah, so I just got home from work, and my wife wasn't there, which is unusual, and my kids should have been there by now from, daycare. So I was like, oh, maybe she went on a walk. I couldn't find her, so I called the daycare to see what time she picked up the kids. The kids were never picked up, so I got freaked out, so I hit, the Find My iPhone app thing, and it said that it showed her phone, at our end of our driveway. We don't have really good service.
Okay.
Not the end of our driveway, but the end of our street. So I just drove down there, and I saw her phone with her headphones because she started running again. And I found her phone, and it's got, hair ripped out of it, in the headphones. So I'm, totally freaking out, thinking, somebody, grabbed her.
Okay, what's your address?
I guess he went driving down the street, and he saw these sitting on the side of the road.
Yes, and that was another thing that kind of stuck out in my mind when I was talking to him, because he had the forethought to take a photograph of how he found the phone. And when I asked him why he did that, he said that he'd want to be a detective and thought that it was important for him to take an evidence photograph prior to collecting it.
Yeah. Now, knowing all we know now, it's almost scary how convincing she was telling her story to police right after she returned home. Take a look at this and see how convincing she was.
I know this is hard. I'm gonna take pictures of your face, okay? So I got that up right there. It'll grow back.
The first day with the zip ties, getting out of them, because they were behind my back. So I pulled them, I did one of these moves. And that's what this scar right there is from, is the very beginning, when I got them off. There was a chain around my waist.
Okay.
So the chain had, okay, sorry, the chain, so here's a pretty stick figure.
Let's draw the whole room. You want to do that?
Sure.
We'll lay out the whole room.
There was this pull, stupid pull, was attached here, came down, went all the way up. Pull is the only reason why I was there. The cable was here, and it needed a turn. I'm sorry for swearing. And then the cable I could reach all the way to the bed, couldn't reach the door, couldn't reach the window, could reach the bed. There was at all times there was a bucket in the closet. That's what I used to go to the bathroom in.
Okay, the whole time she's saying all this, it's all made up.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mark, when something like this happens, this makes it tough for real victims, right?
Without question. Listen, I would zealously defend her and anyone accused of a crime because that's my job. As a human being, I find her behavior abhorrent. I think that she got off light. I think that she sets back victims in future investigations. And worse, law enforcement. They have precious hours that they devoted to her. And quite frankly, I don't think that she was sentenced enough.
We have to take a break. Coming up, we're going to show you the moment detectives put Sherri on the spot and confronted her with all of her lies. And I really want to ask Mark what he thinks about her talking to them without a lawyer there to begin with. Her response was not what you might think. We'll show you that shocking interrogation tape right after the break.
The reason why you lost so much weight is because you stopped eating. The reason why you got a rash on your arm is because you cleaned his house. The reason why the brand is because he went to the store, bought the branding tools, and branded you.
And later, when she reappeared, she was pretty beat up.
Oh, yes, really bad. It was actually shocking. And I've seen a lot of injuries in my career, and she would have the boyfriend actually knock hockey pucks into her and then use the stick to roll down her skin to create bruising.
According to published reports, James Reyes was once engaged to the California mom whose disappearance in 2016 riveted the nation. The FBI now claims Sherri was actually holed up for 3 weeks in Costa Mesa, California with an ex-boyfriend. According to authorities, he admitted to helping Sherri run away because she claimed she'd been abused by her husband. According to court documents, the ex-boyfriend says Sherri asked him to board up the windows so no light would come in. During their time together, the ex told investigators that he slept on a couch in the living room and she had her own room, and that she hit herself to create bruises and asked him to brand her shoulder.
Well, that's some commitment. Supermom Sherri Papini's disappearance dominated the headlines when she vanished in 2016 and then showed up alive 3 weeks later. Sherri claimed she had been kidnapped and tortured by 2 Hispanic women who planned to traffic her. But while the world thought Sherri was a victim, behind the scenes, investigators were uncovering that she was not as innocent as she seemed. After years of suspecting she was making up the details of her abduction, investigators had what they needed to confront Sherri. So take a look at this newly released police tape, and then we'll talk about it.
You've told us so many truths in this situation. The reason why you can describe the room is because you stayed in the room in the dark for hours, for days on end. The reason why you lost so much weight is because you stopped eating. The reason why you got a rash on your arm is because you cleaned his house. The reason why the brand is because he went to the store, bought the branding tools, and branded you. The reason why your nose was broke is because of a hockey stick. I know all of those things, and I know there was no sex. I know all of that because he passed a polygraph test. That said, it's not an abduction. She asked me to come get her.
No.
I rented a car.
No.
I drove up and picked her up. He passed the polygraph test, Sherri.
What do you think about that looking at it now?
Yeah, you know, we had a lot of answers before we went into that interview. So just incredible that giving her all these off-ramps in order to tell us the truth, she just wasn't going to do it.
I'm outraged by how nice they were being to her. At first, I get it. At some point, I wanted with words for them to throw her up against the wall and say, "You're done, honey. We know what's going on."
Why do you think she was allowing herself to be interrogated without a lawyer there?
Oh, because she's the smartest person in the room. She's the orchestrator of this whole thing. This is all a master plan. This wasn't someone who escaped from her life and then said, "My goodness, I need a reentry plan." This was all planned out from the very beginning. So this was part of it. Her speaking to law enforcement was part of her thrill. It's part of her high promotion of herself.
Now, this was all theater. That tape we just looked at before we went to the break, she's talking about being chained and tortured, and she's recounting that, which would be traumatic for anyone. But did you notice when she was drawing it, she was giggling? Play that, just that clip where she's drawing the chain.
Okay, sorry. The chain. So here's a pretty stick figure.
Let's draw the whole room. You want to do that?
Sure.
We'll lay out the whole.
That's incompatible with what you would expect for someone
Correct.
recounting a traumatic situation. We know now that Keith was buying all this for a while.
Yes.
So keep in mind, when investigators told Sherri that they were onto her, this was a moment that Keith, her loyal supporter, learned that his perfect wife had been lying to him this entire time. So look at his body language in this video, and what you're going to see is him physically distancing himself from her. It starts out being 2 and 2, and then pretty soon it becomes 3 and 1. Take a look.
I think we need my lawyer. This isn't making any sense.
No, it's not making sense, Sherri. The parts that
That
don't make
it's
sense.
James.
No, the parts that don't make sense are that you're accusing 2 females who abducted you when it was James. The part that you were branded, James did it. He told me he did it. Who would sit there and say, I branded Sherri on her right shoulder blade? Who does that?
And told us how and showed us the letters that matched the brand.
I mean, if that wall wasn't there, he would be in the parking lot.
But here's the shocking part. He hears all of this evidence clearly showing that this was a hoax, that she made it up. He then stays with her and believes for 2 years until she's indicted that this is all legit. I learned that from him. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a time that after this case was over that Keith and I spoke on the phone. He actually called me. And she had told him that the fact that she wasn't arrested after the interview was just an interview tactic used by the police, and that the story was still true. And he bought into that.
Yeah.
She was convincing.
Coming up, Sherri's family reacts to finding out she lied about her abduction. And then I'm going to show you some more things that I think will jump out at you. We'll be right back. Her ego got in her way because you would never have let her talk to law enforcement, would you?
Sherri's husband is now breaking his silence. The events have been shocking and devastating, Keith Papini says. My current focus is on moving on and doing everything I can to provide my 2 children with as normal, healthy, and happy of a life as possible. Sherri's sister is also denouncing her. My sister is deeply disturbed. Sadly, despite what she has expressed to the media, she feels no remorse or guilt for the untold damage she has caused.
When missing mother, referred to at the time as Supermom, Sherri Papini reappeared just 3 weeks after mysteriously vanishing in 2016, many people called it a miracle. But even though police were holding their cards very close to the vest, not everyone was buying that story. There was widespread speculation that she might have faked her own abduction and that she was the real-life Gone Girl. I covered this case in depth on my podcast, Mystery and Murder, Analysis by Dr. Phil, which is why I'm so passionate about this, because I've really dug into it. So if you're finding this interesting and you want to know more about it, you can check that out. But listen to what goes on here when she's responding to this, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
It's 100% James's DNA.
We even collected blonde hairs from the room.
There's no way it's James. There's no way.
Why
are you saying it's not James? Why are you saying it's not?
He loves me.
What's that?
We were friends. There's no way.
And he came and got you because you asked him.
No.
When was the last time you had contact with James?
His brother died.
Brother died in 2017? Is that right?
I don't remember.
Was it before or after the abduction? Before.
When was the last time you saw James?
I don't know. Forever ago, when I lived in Southern California.
So the last person-to-person contact you had with him was back in 2006? when you were living in Southern California?
I don't know.
So, was it prior to your marriage?
It's him. There is no way it's him.
Well, it is, James.
The DNA tells us that it was his DNA on you.
Her ego got in her way because you would never have let her talk to law enforcement, would you?
Nope, because I've been practicing quite some time, and the fish who kept his mouth shut never got caught, you know? Keep your mouth shut. What are you doing? And then ultimately she was properly charged with lying to them.
One of the things I found interesting is how, with you guys, she tried to own the narrative by answering questions that weren't asked as a way of deflection. Like you would say, we've talked to James, the ex-boyfriend. He told us he branded you. She
His
says,
DNA all over her clothing.
His
she
DNA.
hasn't seen him in years, but it's right there on.
But yet you say you haven't seen him since '07. So you've either worn that same sweatshirt for the last 20 years or you're lying. And her response is, it can't be him. It can't be him, as though you're telling me he's the one that abducted me. No, that's not what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that the two of you did this together. And she, of course, lied to him and told him he was helping her escape an abusive husband, right?
That's correct.
Did you ever charge the ex-boyfriend with anything?
No, we did not.
He was duped.
He was definitely duped.
When all of this is going on, what are you guys thinking?
Well, it's hard. I mean, it's a lot of effort went in this case. So at one part of it was we're elated that we finally got to the end of the road, but the fact that we had to go through this many resources and deal with this much lying and trickery and stuff, it was disappointing. I mean, it was a gut puncher.
Yeah. All right, coming up, we got a surprising message from Sherri's mother, Loretta. She says she's been silent, but now she's ready to expose her daughter's lies. We'll hear what she had to say next. I think that's a good example of how this kind of lying, this kind of creating drama just keeps on wreaking havoc.
There is a bizarre new twist in the mystery of kidnapped jogger Sherri Papini. 14 years ago, her mom told police that Sherri, then 21, had been harming herself and blaming it on the mother. The mom called the cops because she wants advice on how to handle the situation, according to a just-released police log. Another embarrassing police report also reveals that in 2000, Sherri's father told authorities he believed Sherri had vandalized his home. That same day, Sherri's sister reported that her back door had been kicked in, and she believed Sherri was responsible.
All right, well, Sherri Papini's mother, Loretta, reached out to us. She said now that her daughter has been sentenced, she's ready to speak out. She says neither she nor Sherri's father ever abused her. Sherri's history of claiming she had been abused led detectives to believe she was not only a pro at lying, but also at playing the victim. You can see an example of her doing both in this clip.
Might as well get it out of your head that James is not involved, because James is clearly involved, and James already told us he's the one that did the brand.
That's something that he admitted to. He admitted to a felony. You could put him in prison over.
Now it's your opportunity to say, were there issues between you and Keith? Is that why you needed to leave?
James said you had your jaw broken by him, and that's why he came and got you, because you were in an abusive relationship.
I love my husband.
So, were you in an abusive relationship with him? And you go tell James that you were being hurt, you were being abused, and you couldn't come forward because Keith has friends in law enforcement. Is that true? Has Keith ever been abusive towards you?
We're not talking about my husband. I love my husband.
Well, Sherri's mom, Loretta, couldn't join us because she said the stress of being painted as an abuser has just taken such a toll that it has landed her in the hospital. And I think that's a good example of how this kind of lying, this kind of creating drama just keeps on wreaking havoc. Like you say, gut punch. People don't think about the sacrifices in addition to not being available to answer legitimate calls, resources absorbed when you could have been doing something else. You guys took time away from family. Holidays were sacrificed because you're out looking and in the field.
And how many Latino women were stopped, questioned, harassed? How many other people, when you've got the Jussie Smolletts and the runaway brides, when they name people of a particular class, a particular race, how they get scrutinized? I think the ripple effect is enormous, and I don't think it was reflected in her sentence.
Yeah, I agree with that. And there was a dollar amount associated with this that probably was very conservative, but she has to pay back almost $250,000, right?
Over that, yes.
Yeah.
We expended, over $100,000 just that we know of, not to, account for all the time these guys thought about this case. I can tell you there was countless times, I'd wake up at 3 in the morning and we'd be racking our brains, not being able to sleep. And I'm glad you actually brought that up about the officers involved. And you can see in one of these tapes, one of the lead investigators, trying to impress upon her how much we're on her side, that she can trust us, that he starts to well up in tears because of the stress of her being gone and us trying to find her. It was pretty incredible. When I watched that, it choked me up the first time I saw it, but she had, it didn't matter to her. She just kind of grinned when the officer was talking to her and his eyes were welling up with tears.
Coming up, while Sherri was still missing, investigators discovered that she had been secretly texting not one but 2 men behind her husband's back, and she planned to meet up with one right before she disappeared. Well, what did they think when they discovered that? We'll talk about that when we come back.
He helped give her some of the injury, but she did a lot of it to herself. She was committed.
When did you know?
There has been a dramatic new development in a case in California that made international headlines years ago. A woman who admits that she faked her own kidnapping agreed yesterday to plead guilty to charges of lying to federal officers and mail fraud. Sherri Papini faces potential prison time and more than $300,000 in restitution.
Sherri described her assailants as 2 Hispanic female adults.
According to the FBI, she accused the women of brutally torturing her.
She specifically picked out a gender and a race to name as the suspect. So any Hispanic woman at that time, I'm sure, is getting an eyebrow raised and looking in there wondering, wonder if she could be connected or one of the suspects.
The FBI said its investigation indicated it was all an expensive hoax by Papini, costing taxpayers more than $230,000.
More than 5 years after her disappearance made national headlines, Sherri Papini was sentenced to 18 months in prison for her crimes. But her story isn't over. On January 28th, Lifetime will air Hoax, the kidnapping of Sherri Papini. Now, Sherri probably thought, well, at least she's going to be the hero of the movie version of her life. Seriously. But looks like that's not exactly how it's going to come across. Take a look.
Ripped from the headlines.
Keith, your wife has been missing for 5 days.
I'm coming, honey. I love you. Breakfast?
Yes, please.
A Lifetime original movie.
Did you have an issue with mental health?
What do you mean?
Do it. I deserve it.
Sherri, is it true that you faked it?
I would just really like to have this all put behind me forever.
Hoax, the kidnapping of Sherri Papini. Premieres Saturday, January 28th at 8 on Lifetime.
Not sure that's going to get her a lot of endorsement deals. When she reappeared, she was pretty beat up.
Oh, yes. Really bad. I mean, it was actually shocking. And I've seen a lot of injuries in my career, but she had some shocking injuries.
A
And
chain
zip ties.
around her waist and around her wrist. And she had zip ties
Yes.
on her hands, gouged and burn marks. And then we have evidence photo of her in her hospital bed. You can see that she is emaciated. She was down to what, 87 pounds? Turns out she got hit with a hockey puck.
She would have the boyfriend actually knock hockey pucks into her and then use the stick to roll down her skin to create bruising. And then he described how she would just run into walls and throw herself on the ground to create more injuries.
And then we've got the brand. And there was, did that say something?
We believe it says Exodus, but you can't read the actual letters.
Yeah. And this was with a wood burning kit?
Yeah, she instructed him to go to Hobby Lobby and buy a wood burning kit in order to do this.
Yeah, and he said he didn't do all of this. She did it to herself, except for the wood burning.
He helped give her some of the injuries, and of course this particular brand, but she did a lot of it to herself. She was committed.
Yeah, I mean, that's sick.
Yeah, and just so we're clear, you mentioned she got 18 months in prison. We're talking about federal prison, and there's layers to that. There's a camp where non-violent offenders like her are probably held. So she gets to go to a camp. She won't do 18 months. You do a year or a year and a halfway house. You take 15% off for good behavior at a camp. So someone who wanted to kind of leave the world gets rewarded by leaving the world. It just doesn't make any sense.
How much is she likely to do, Mark?
In an actual prison, if we're going to call a camp a prison, because it's not 6 months maybe, the rest in a halfway house. It's not much punishment. And if the state system had handled it candidly, I think she would have gotten more time. I think the time would have been more severe. I just don't think that she got what she deserved.
Yeah. And the husband stayed with her for a couple of years, right?
Yes.
And has now filed for divorce?
He has, yeah.
And custody?
Yes, he has.
Did he get custody?
But right now he has custody, yes.
Okay. Well,
And they're still going through, all that. But he stayed with her, and again, it's because she was convincing. She convinced him that now we were all the liars, and we were just using these interview tactics to get her to say something that wasn't the truth.
When did you know?
There was a point in 2017 that with this case that she was a turning point for me, and that was an interview that she did with a forensic interviewer, and all of a sudden all these new facts just started to come out that she just happened to remember. And one of those things, in the office, I quoted, or we call it the Jason Bourne incident, where all of a sudden out of the blue, she attacks one of the abductors and gives us this incredible story of this fight that she did, shoving
when she hurt her foot?
When she hurt her foot, and shoving the abductor's head into the toilet and during this fight. But of course she couldn't remember anything because she never saw a face. But that was just incredible to me, and that was really probably a big turning point for me, that, hey, there's something wrong in this case.
Yeah. They found 2 contacts in her phones that had phony names on them, like girls' names on them that turned out to be guys.
Correct. There was actually a person that she was trying to meet up with the night before she went missing that was coming into town, but it just didn't work out.
When Supermom Sherri Papini vanished while jogging near her California home in November 2016, her family enlisted the help of private investigator Bill Garcia. Now, Bill worked for Sherri's family, trying to solve the mystery of her disappearance, and he says Sherri is the first person who ever had him fooled in his entire career, and he joins us now virtually. Bill, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Bill, when you got involved, you believed that she, in fact, had been abducted. What made you believe that this was true?
Well, initially, all of the evidence that was being presented to the public indicated that she was likely kidnapped or taken against her will. And that's why we traveled up to Reading and decided to launch an investigation of our own to try and ascertain what had happened to Sherri.
And when you found out that this, in fact, was a hoax, and you look back, was there something out of sync?
Well, our biggest concern was the fact that the earbuds were found coiled up on top of the phone, sitting on a tuft of grass where it could easily be seen from the road. We typically get involved in missing children and abducted children cases. And in this case, we got involved because here were two small children who were missing their mother. So I felt compelled that we needed to help in whatever way we could. The law being what it is, law enforcement did a tremendous job, but they're not able to share with us a lot of information. We have to gain our information from other sources and our own investigation. So we always place that earbud part in the back of our brain to kind of let us know that, hey, there may be something funny here. It wasn't until after she was charged that we learned what the truth was.
So it was just an absence of evidence, I suppose. You didn't have much to react to until she reappeared. Mark said he flew all the way here to find out why I think she did it. So when we come back, I'm going to tell you why I think she did this, what drove it, why she did it, why she thought she could get away with it. We'll be right back. I want to tell you, I went into this field of psychology because I've been fascinated with human behavior all my life. And when I look at people, I first try to figure out what's their currency, because everybody has a different currency. And this woman, in my opinion, had a huge problem with entitlement. I saw it in Chris Watts, the family annihilator that killed his two beautiful babies and murdered his pregnant wife. And people said, why didn't he just get a divorce? Well, he didn't just get a divorce because he didn't want that trouble. He just wanted to hit the reset button and wipe the slate clean and be able to start fresh with this lover he had. He was narcissistic enough to think he could do that and nobody would ever question it. And here, I truly think this woman played this movie in her mind and thought other people that had been abducted and came back and were famous and admired and had all of this adulation from people, but what courage she had for surviving. And I think she pieced this together and thought, I'm out here living this life that is so mundane, but I know how to get world famous. And I think her plan all along was, this is it. This is my jump to stardom. She just wasn't getting enough attention in her life. She wasn't getting enough payoff, wasn't getting enough currency. She was just taking this up to the next level. So I think this was just a very selfish, narcissistic, immature play. And she got caught by some very diligent, relentless police officers that kept working. And they took the time to be sure they weren't blaming a victim. And since she pled, she's still telling people she was kidnapped.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Sherri has begun her prison sentence and is currently an inmate at a medium security federal prison in San Bernardino County. So that's where she is, and probably not for very long. And I'm interested to see what she does next. I will promise you have not heard the last from Sherri Papini. You'll be interested to see what Act 2 or 3 or 4, whatever it is, is next. I want to thank my guest today. Mark, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Retired Shasta County Sheriff's Officer, Captain Pat Cropholler, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
If you can't get enough of this story, check out my true crime podcast, Mystery and Murder, an analysis by Dr. Phil. Both Mark and Pat are guests, and there are so many more fascinating details we dig into that you just couldn't make up if you tried, unless you're Sherri Papini, that is. Go check it out. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.